Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another player performance review for the 2019-2020 season. Today, the spotlight is going to be shone on our number one, England's number one, Jordan Pickford. England's number one for how much longer, though? I mean, this is going to be a pretty scathing assessment if a lot of the popular vote on Twitter is anything to go by. For this, I've got Terry alongside me again, and of course, Mike Richards as well. A warm welcome back to Mike Richards. First time on in quite a while, I think, isn't it, Mike? How are you doing?
Not bad, mate. Yeah, it's been a couple of months, I think, now. Yeah, but not too bad, mate.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And so, yeah, between us, we're going to be putting the jury out on Everton and England's number one, Jordan Pickford. We'll start with you, Mike. How do you think your season went? I say that through gritted teeth.
I know he's one of those Pickford, isn't he? And I go back to when we first bought him, and he was my pick to actually bring in. When Sunderland went down, I thought, yeah, fits the bill, young lad. He's got serious talent as a shot stopper. His distribution obviously was decent, and that first season won the Player of the Year. And you think, he's going to really kick on. Got the England number one spot. Saving penalties in the World Cup, and you think that he's going from strength to strength. And then you look at sort of the last sort of couple of seasons, really, and he's all I can really say is his concentration levels have got to be seriously questioned. You think as a player and a goalkeeper especially get older, that side of things starts to improve. And for me, if anything, it's possibly gone a little bit worse. We go back to Newcastle in the previous season away when he was pulling tongues and this, that, and the other with the Newcastle fans, and quite clearly they were impacting on his game. And then you think, we need to grow up, and then you look at him again. Last season.
Now they haven't got the excuse of winding fans up because there's no fans in the stadium towards the end of the season.
Exactly right, and then you look at him. Even when we came back after lockdown in those 9 games or so, and even then he was making mistakes. As you say, there's no crowd there on his back or anything like that. It's just pure concentration, isn't it? He just needs to concentrate. And after those mistakes he's made, he wouldn't make. I mean, England number one, questionable.
Very questionable, if you ask me.
I just think that he hasn't been pushed at both club and country really in terms of who's going to knock Jordan Pickford off his perches as number one. Because at Everton, there's no one. And then with England,
it's starting to maybe people are saying Nick Pope.
It is now. It's starting to sort of ramp up now. But for the first time in a number of years, England are going to have probably a little bit of a selection headache for goalkeeper. There's a few up-and-coming goalkeepers, obviously Henderson, obviously Pope, you mentioned as well. But I think maybe Pickford needs that. But in terms of his performance for the 1920 season, I'd put it under abysmal, to be honest with you. And I'm in a keeper's union, and I'm one of I played in goal pretty much all my life, and I know it's one of the hardest positions to play in, because if you make a mistake, generally it leads to a goal. So straight away, in terms of media coverage and punditry and so on, they're going to be on goalkeepers' back if you make a mistake. But he's got probably 2 or 3 mistakes a game in him. Not sort of, every few weeks, 2 or 3 mistakes, a lack of concentration per game. And you can't rely on a goalkeeper to be your number one. And to save you, say, 9 or 10 points a season, if he's doing that at the moment and probably going forward, it could be costing us the same number of points, and we can't afford to do that.
I'm very confident he probably has cost us that many points to some of the performances we've seen from him this season. It's a very scathing assessment from you there, Mike. Terry, do you agree with what Mike said?
Yeah, I do completely. I think he's very lucky that the club are in the position they're in financially, where they've got to be very wise with their money, and the position he's in the wider context. There's not a lot of people looking to spend big money on goalkeepers at the minute, because I think if we could move him on, I think we would, because at the minute I would hold the goalkeeper. Personally, I know the club probably won't see it like this, but personally, I think the goalkeeper is an emergency at the minute at this club. It's on the level of the centre of midfield. Pickford is an iron, ball and chain around the ankle of this team. They're not going to go anywhere with him in goal, because not only does he make regular mistakes and cost the team regular points at this point, he also doesn't think he needs to improve. Now, you can say, well, how do you know that? You don't know him. Look at his post-match interviews. He's always so bullish and talks about how he knows what he's good. He knows
He knows
his
what he's
ability.
capable of, and all.
Yeah. He sort of like pushes back on criticism, but not in the sense of he needs to, prove them wrong. He thinks they're wrong already, like that the criticism's unjustified, and it's not. He's
Pickford reminds me of one of those like restaurant owners that Gordon Ramsay goes into, and they're always up their own holes. It's one of them, isn't he?
Honestly, he's making regular mistakes now. It used to be he was a little bit erratic, like he'd save you he'd pull off a world-class save and then he'd make a mistake. It's happening nearly every game now, and he's pulling the stupid faces when he's nearly costing you a goal or is costing you a goal. I think he makes the defence worse because they're getting to the point now where they're getting nervous.
They're nervous around him, yeah, absolutely.
Because they don't know, I forget the game, but it was after lockdown. Michael Keane, was it Leicester?
Yeah, the Leicester game. Michael Keane nearly scored an own goal because of him.
Yeah, and he had to, bail him out. Honestly, I think if it was possible, the club should be looking to replace him quickly. Obviously, they're not going to bring in someone while he's still here because it doesn't make financial sense. So he's very lucky in that regard that he's probably going to get a reprieve for next season. But next summer, when the Euros come up, if he's had another season like this, he's going to lose his England place. And I'd love nothing more than for him to lose his England place, because that's clearly what is the most important thing.
That's probably what's fueling his ego. And if you're putting England over Everton, then that's not good either from our perspective.
But this is the thing, it's clearly the most important thing to him, which is not a problem if you're performing for both club and country. But I think, all the criticism he gets, and he doesn't seem to, take on board. I think if he lost his England place, that would really put the frighteners on him, and you might see an upturn in form to try and get it back. But I honestly, I think he's an awful goalkeeper at this point. He's for last season, he was. It's been widely circulated now on Twitter, hasn't it? The XG or the XS expected saves. He was the second worst in the league, only behind Kepa. Like, he concedes so many, loads of goals per shots, and just having like the odds.
There's no statistic that shows him in any glory from this season, is there?
No, he's meant to be good with his feet, but if they're working on speed,
he keeps booting it out for throw-ins.
Yeah, if they're practicing in training, in placing it in the family enclosure, then he's absolutely spot on at it. But he's I think he's an absolute emergency at the minute.
I'll be honest. You've said emergency. I think he is a complete and utter liability at this point, because it's not just, like you say. I think it's not just that the statistics and people can bash people and go, Joe, oh, you only care about the statistics. The statistics don't show him in any glory, but you strip the statistics away and you just look at things like at face value, and his attitude is terrible as well. There's nothing that really puts him in a good light at the moment.
The only thing we can go off is on the pitch. I don't know what he's like in training. Apparently, he spoke to Ancelotti, didn't he? Said he needs to improve, and that's good. But if you go off his post-match interviews, I don't know. It was against the might have been Man United, but no, I don't think it was, because he made a mistake in that, didn't he? It's that many games. He's come out in interviews and been bullish, saying he knows what he's capable of and this, that, and the other. And when he's making mistakes and he's pulling faces at the cameras, and you're going, you need to sort your head out or get out the club, because you're not good enough to be doing this. You know what I mean? It's like the eccentric players need to be quality to get away with being eccentric. You can't be like him, a goalkeeper who's making mistakes every other game.
It's like he's like Gaza between the sticks. That's what he wants to be, if you ask me.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I think he's a lucky boy in a lot of respects with his career position at the minute, because I think if everything would have been normal, he could have been dropped for the Euros, and he could have been on the chopping block for Everton. But he's had a reprieve on both those counts.
So with that in mind, what can we expect from him next season? Dare to say it.
Well, like Terry said, then the chances are he's going to be there. If you look around the Premier League in terms of who's on the hunt for a keeper, Chelsea are the only ones really who are going to be on the hunt for a keeper. So would Pickford? I'm sure Pickford would go there. Would they want Pickford? Maybe 12 months, or maybe 12 months ago. If we're in the same situation 12 months ago, then they possibly would. Now, maybe not. You can still demand very good money for Pickford, because he's still England number one. He still is. You know, he's got a decent reputation, I think, across the country. So you could still demand a fee in excess of what we paid for him, but the chances are he's still going to be there. And you know, there's probably slightly bigger concerns, not much bigger, but slightly bigger concerns in other areas of the pitch. But he's a very close second to that centre midfield, I'd say. But he's going to be there. But you know, you touched on distribution. When he first came in, that was his main weapon, wasn't it? How many times would you see him those little half bodies out of his hands to set us away on a counter? And how many times did it come off? You look at him now, and like you say, he's taken go out to play every single time he plays the ball off the floor. If he tries that sort of half volley out of his hands, same situation, out of play too long, or sometimes he drops it in too short, and you just think, you know, one of your main weapons and one of the things that you were renowned for is just sort of not there. The one saving grace with Pickford, I think, from sort of the England point of view, is with his feet in general, as a footballer, he can play football, if you know what I mean. So he can pass the ball out from the back and things like that, you know, go short. And he's got that confidence, I think, to do that. Whereas, like, Pope hasn't really got that. But I think, yeah, he's going to be next season by all accounts. And no doubt a few points will be lost along the way because of mistakes that he makes.
That's really depressing to say. It feels like we're starting the season on -10 or something, doesn't it? When you're thinking about it like that. And it is that's how much of a liability Jordan Pickford's become at Everton. And, you know, we can't go into it too much, but there's just too many games, hasn't there, this season that you can recall. I think, Terry, you pretty much got it right. I can't think of a game where he hasn't made a mistake. I mean, he hasn't always been punished for it, but he does make a mistake at least every game.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting noticed on the national level now, like, you know, because he's the England keeper, you get a lot of pundits, you know, like, focusing on him, and it's not just in an Everton bubble, you know, like, you'll find that some you know, some lazy pundits will, like, you know, not be aware about, you know, well, Sigurdsson, he's a quality player, and all, like, you know, you haven't seen him for months.
You haven't seen him play for ages since he was last on Sky, probably.
Yeah, whereas Pickford, like, I think to the lockdown games when we needed a goal against Tottenham, and Gary Neville just, like, verbally threw his hands in the air and just went, and he's hit Bernard. Like, when he picked up the ball, we were desperate for a goal. We went through everyone up front, like, you know, Yerry Mina and Michael Keane went into the opposition box, and he picks up the ball, Pickford, and just fires it at Bernard, the smallest player on the pitch, literally. It's like,
smallest player in the Premier League, probably.
Are you stupid? It's like, do you understand football? How does he get to the highest level of football and make decisions like that? That's not even like a mistake in goalkeeping. Like, you can list them all day, you know, the amount of shots that he, you know, like, makes a meal out of, or crosses that he comes for and doesn't make, but it's just his general decision making is awful. Like,
it's appalling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's a real problem, and if he doesn't sort it out next year, to be honest, for me, the best case scenario for me is he sorts it out next season, has a great tournament, and then gets sold. I don't want to see any scenario where we go into next summer and he's not, you know, like, sold and replaced, because even if he has a great season, I think it'll only be because of the England tournament coming up that he'll have turned it on to try and, you know, like.
But don't forget though, before the lockdown, the England tournament was coming up this season.
No, I know, but he's had the let off, hasn't he? So he might. I'm not saying he you know, he's guaranteed to play well because of that, but he's more likely to. Like, he thinks, probably sitting there thinking, I've got away with it massively there, but I've got the other keepers have got another chance, another season now to displace me. So I want to see him play well next season to get a move. I don't want to see him stay at Everton because I know he'll fall off again if he does have a good season next season.
It's an attitude problem, and I don't think a lot of people were hoping, I think, when he came in. And I mean, he was a lot better than his first season, but even then we knew he was a bit erratic, like you say. I think everybody was hoping that he'd mature, but he's certainly not mature. And if anything, I think, like Mike said before, he's regressing, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
And on that bombshell, we'll finish this one up. We'll do our scores out of 10. This should be fun. Mike, what would you give Jordan Pickford out of 10 this season?
I'll be kind and give him 2.
What about you, Terry?
2.
2?
Yeah.
I'm going to give him the number on his back. 1. That's actually the worst score I've given. I think I was more generous to Sigurdsson and Schneiderlin than I was for whatever reason. But I don't know why. I think the more we've spoken about Jordan Pickford, the more it's riled me just how bad his, not just his performances have been, but his attitude. And his...
I think it's a position that, with him being number one and our goalkeeper, and it being such an important position on the pitch, when you have such a poor season, it does get under your skin and it does rile you. And like you say, attitude again.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing which gets under people's skin, isn't it? Having the wrong attitude, and he unfortunately always puts himself in the limelight for the wrong reasons.
Well, I think that's the thing. Let's not forget, we've had goalkeepers before him. We're looking at like older keepers like Richard Wright and people like that who were making mistakes near enough every game, but they weren't coming out and like giving it all up to the media, and they weren't pulling tongues when they were making mistakes. So I think it's the fact that I think Terry got it spot on there that there's no confidence in Jordan Pickford to ever get his act together. I think that's where the real issue lies. Because every keeper can have a bad run of form, but you need the right attitude to get yourself back on track.
That's it. And he's overconfident, and like you say, you've got to be a sort of master of your craft. If you want to be like that, you've got to be the best. Literally, you've got to be the best in the world. And look at Ronaldo. He's one of those players, isn't he? With one of those attitudes, but he's sort of top 2, top 3 players in the world. Jordan Pickford's nowhere near top 10, top 20 goalkeeper in the world, but he behaves like he is, and that's riles people, doesn't it, unfortunately.
When he's not performing, it certainly doesn't, and he's definitely not performed this season, let's be honest. Yeah, so there you go, guys. England's number 1 gets a 1 out of 10 from me, and a couple of 2s for good measure. Not a great season for Jordan Pickford, but let us know your opinions on Pickford's season. Give us your scores out of 10 as well. Give this video a like as well. Subscribe for more content. And until next time, thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues.